Welcome to our regular meeting for September of the USD 305 Board of Education. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is one addition to our agenda. We'll add an item 12B, executive session for personnel. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda? Ann?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
I second.
Bonnie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Now on to recognitions and presentations and Superintendent's Excellence Awards with Olivia Opat.
Good evening. Tonight we'll be recognizing the Superintendent's Excellence Awards. Superintendent Hogan, will you please join me at the front? Tonight, Lisa Peters will be taking pictures for us. Thank you, Lisa. Our first award of the night goes to the Central High School boys golfer, Tommy Payne. Chris Fear is the coach. Will you please both join Superintendent Hogan at the front? Congratulations, Tommy. Please step towards Superintendent Hogan so you can receive your award and have your picture taken. Our next group of awards goes to the South High School boys golfers. Jason Hooper and Steve Brown are the coaches. Coaches, will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? Will the boys golfers please line up next to Superintendent Hogan? The following South High students qualified to compete at the Boys State Golf Tournament. This is their third consecutive year to qualify. Students, as I call your name, please step towards Superintendent Hogan so you can receive your award and have your picture taken. After you've received your award, please walk to the end of your line and remain standing until all students in your group have been recognized. Maddox Gerard, Sawyer Harris, Ledger Michael, Jackson Perry, Nicholas Stoppel, and Jacob Trant. Our next group of awards goes to the Central High School softball players. Alyssa Waldron is the coach. Coach Waldron, will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? And will the softball players please line up next to him? The Central High School softball team had a historic season. For the first time in 30 years, the softball team captured the regional title, qualifying them to compete at state for the first time in their program history. Congratulations. Okay, Bailey Bruce. Brooke Banniger. Madison Burnt. Peyton Burnt. Riley Budke. Braylon Diggs. Paxton Eckberg. Charlotte Gordon. Jolie Guyette. Sophia Johnson. Carly McMichael. Hannah Peckham. Ellie Rykoff. Harper Turnpen. Lily Van Zant, Valerie Van Zant, and Katie Wagner. Okay, would you guys now please allow the Board of Education to congratulate you?
Gentlemen, you want to come up, please? Superintendent screwed that up. Sorry about that, thank you. This is our golfers, I messed that up.
Our next group of awards goes to the Central High School girls swimming and diving athletes. Dawn Shaforigan and Mandy Ediger are the coaches. Coach Ediger, will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? And will the swimming and diving athletes please line up next to them? The following Central students qualified to compete at the state swimming and diving competition. Josie Ebel, and then Caroline Fields. Our next group of awards goes to the South High School girls swimming and diving athletes. Dawn Shaforigan and Mandy Ediger are the coaches. Coach Ediger, will you please come back up and join us? Will the swimming and diving athletes please line up next to them again? The following South High students qualified to compete at the state swimming and diving competition. Allie Bray, Natalie Brennanman, Shiloh Summers, and Anna Huel. Thank you. Our next awards go to the Central High School boys tennis players. John Huseman is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? And will the tennis players please line up next to them? The following Central High School students qualified to compete at the state tennis competition. Kason Burt, Liam Deneau Young, Jonathan Huseman, Owen Leonard, and Riddick Smith. Would you now please let the board congratulate you? Our next awards go to the South High School tennis players. Kendra Maples is the coach. Coach Maples, will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? And will the tennis players please line up next to them? The following South High students all qualified to compete at the state tennis competition. Marcus Chavez and Brody Garnett. Congratulations. Our next group of awards goes to the Central High School track and field athletes. Brad Dix is here tonight in place of Coach Mike Kilgore. Will you please line up next to Superintendent Hogan? And will the track and field athletes please line up next to them? Central High School had 21 athletes qualified to compete at the state competition. Javen Armstrong, Christian Brosi, Alex Garcia, Kaylee Holmes, Isaac Howe, Cameron Jones, Amara Jordan, Cabrian Lewis, Zariah Lewis, James McKinney, Angel McMurray, Sejon Mills, Kaden Nenke, Allison Robinette, Caitlin Roop, Reish Schneewise, Kaylee Schultz.
All right. Thank you for being here. Before we do that again, Coach, slide on the other side for me. Thank you.
Ethan Soper. Bria Wallace. Trayson Wise and Abigail Zerby. Our final group of awards goes to the South High School track and field athletes. Cameron Magnall is the coach. Would you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? And will the track and field students please line up next to them? The following South High students qualified to compete at the state competition. The girls track and field team finished 8th, the highest since 2002. Congratulations. Gabe Autry. Tamia Cheeks. Jamara Davis. Amari D. Herrera. Amaya Floyd. Bethany Hicklin. Brett Jones. Jackson Myers. Brady Oliver, and Kinsley Showman. Would you now please allow the board to congratulate you?
Thank you all for joining us tonight for that part. Lots of student achievement to award recognition for. I know it's a busy time at the start of the year, and lots of graduates from last spring in that group as well who weren't able to join us tonight. So on to item 5, approval of the consent agenda. Those items tonight are minutes of the August 12th, 2025 regular meeting, minutes of the August 12th, 2025 special meeting, the personnel report, the financial reports, which includes the August bills list, the July treasurer's report, the July investment report, and the July journal entries. Approval of the following encumbrance listings. First, to Ray Roofing in the amount of $30,000 for the purchase and installation of guttering, downspouts, and other materials for the Hageman Education Center. To Ray Roofing in the amount of $415,985 for roof replacement at Stewart Elementary. To Logicalis for the renewal of the Cisco maintenance contract in the amount of $393,930.60. To Eagle for the VMware software renewal in the amount of $76,201.66. And to Optiv in the amount of $27,848.20 for load balancers for our network. Approval of the CKCIE contract addendum with Presence Learning for additional speech teletherapy services in the amount of $97,273.80. Approval of a Central High Thespian out-of-state field trip to Bloomington, Indiana on June 20th, 2026 through June 27th, 2026. And approved board policies on second reading that were first reviewed on first reading at the August 12th, 2025 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. On to public forum. We had no request to speak this evening at our public forum. So on to our action agenda and item 7B, 2025-2026 budget review with Lisa Peters.
Good evening. The district's budget process is a year-round process, and we adjust it with funding, our enrollment count, and with the building needs assessment. I'm going to go over kind of a recap of that process and where we ended up for this year. So for the 25-26 school year, the budget supports our mission to be the best place to learn and work. In developing the budget, you, the board, looked at the building needs assessments and the state assessment data to help drive our budget decisions. And through that work, you gave a 3.8% average salary increase. You expanded our employer-paid health benefits. You increased the leave for support staff that are school year staff. We also decided to outsource our substitutes to have better classroom coverage because we saw that to be a critical need over the last few years in those building needs assessments. We're continuing our professional development initiatives that supports our strategic plan goals, and we maintained interventionists and social workers at every school. At the same time, we still have the same expansive opportunities for our students, and we can see that every day in the classroom, in competition, and in performances. In fact, an example today, the Salina Central Jazz Combo performed at the State Board of Education in Topeka. So that's just an example of the opportunities that our students have. And they were awesome. I listened online. The base state aid per pupil increased to $5,615 per student. However, special ed funding still falls below the statutory levels. So that's still a concern and something we need to continue to advocate for. Overall, though, the all funds budget that you're approving tonight is set to be about $173.9 million. The overall mill levy will decrease slightly at 0.171 mills. And as you're aware, the budget was reviewed by the state in July, and then in August we had a special meeting with you, the board, and went through the budget document in total by fund. And then this is the last step. You had the hearing earlier tonight. And then next, I'll certify the budget with the county and the state department as required by law. So what comments do you have about the 25-26 budget?
Comments or questions from anyone?
Thank you, Lisa, for working that all out.
There is a motion in your packet or on the green. Scott has it.
Mr. President, the building needs assessment and state assessment review documentation were provided to the board, evaluated by the board, and used in the budget process. I move that we approve the 2025-2026 budget as published.
Second.
Bonnie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. And on to the next item, which is local option budget.
So this is the last step in the process. This is the annual LOB resolution that authorizes us to use a percentage in our budget document. We set that percentage at 33%. I went over that last month in the special meeting. 33% is the maximum allowed under the law, and it's consistent with where we've been for many, many years.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the 2025-2026 local option budget resolution as presented.
Second. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Let's do it again next year, how about? On to our discussion agenda, and item 8A, a discussion of our Magnolia Street property.
Good evening. Sorry, it's a little short. I have to bend down a little bit here. On the screen this evening, you'll see a copy of the plot of land that we own, the board owns, on East Magnolia Street. Just a little history of this property. It was purchased in December of 2001. The intent at that time, I believe, was to build a school on that property. I'm not sure what type of school, but I know it was purchased for that intent. There's 23.47 acres of buildable land, and then there's a creek area of 3.15 acres. The issues that we have with that particular piece of property are that it is not really accessible now that there's a median on Magnolia Street. And then, of course, in the back there, you've got the creek, so it's really not accessible for bus traffic. So that is one concern. The other concern is we've experienced declining enrollment in the last few years, and we've reduced rooftops, so we're not really in the position to add at this time. With those things being said, we've talked a little bit in the past about the opportunities to sell this particular piece of property. So I've reviewed the contract and just to see what our options are, and so I wanted to make the board aware of what those options are and kind of what the timeline is. So the original owner has what we call the right of first refusal, which essentially means if the board intends to sell it, in item 17B of the contract, the board would provide written notice to the previous owner, who would then need to respond within 15 days of their desire to proceed with the intent to purchase. At which point that would trigger the appraisal process. And so they would respond within that 15 days. Within 10 days of that response, the board would select one appraiser. The buyer at that point would select one appraiser, and then those two appraisers would select a third neutral appraiser. So you would have three appraisers. And then the average of those three appraisals would be presented to the board and to the intended buyer, and that would be the determined fair market price at that time. And so once the fair market price is determined from the average of those three appraisals, within 20 days, a contract must be initiated with closing within another 20 days. So roughly 40 days. And then the appraisals would be paid by the buyer, reimbursed from the escrow account. And so I've had some preliminary conversations with the previous owner just to gauge their interest, and it is my belief that they would like to repurchase that property. And so that's why I looked into the contract to see what the terms of that contract were. And so let's say all those things take place, transpire. At that point, the buyer determines that the fair market value might be more than they are willing to pay. They still have the option of refusal. And let's say they refuse, and then we advertise the property for sale. And then within 3 years, if we don't sell the property and we determine at any point within that 3 years that we're going to reduce our asking price on the property, if that reduction is more than 10%, then the right of refusal comes back into play. So the previous owner would then again have the option to buy the property at that reduced fair market value. So I just wanted to make the board aware of kind of where we were, the fact that I've had those preliminary conversations, and kind of gauge your interest in moving forward with that piece of property.
Board, if you have any questions about the presentation, we'd certainly field those now, and then I have some other information to add once questions are fielded. Okay, so the board has a couple options here. So we've talked about this, even prior to me coming to 305. So I think it's been a topic of discussion on what do we want to do with this property. So the board can wait. You can process the information, knowing the details of the contract, and we could bring this back at a future meeting. Or if it was the will of the board, you could take action tonight, which would essentially give us the authority to move forward with the language of the contract as it's stated. Any questions or discussions? Any feelings on what the board would like to do?
I think we should just go ahead. Is everyone else kind of feeling that way?
So if that's true, then you have a motion as an example that you can use.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, I move that we give the district administration the approval to move forward with the sale of the Magnolia property. At the same time, the district purchased the property. The sales contract included a right of first refusal for the seller, and we would honor that.
Good. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We are on to school board reports and upcoming dates of importance. We have the Salina Education Foundation Fall Breakfast on Thursday, September 18th, next week at 7 a.m. at the Salina Country Club, and Kansas Association of School Boards Annual Convention in Wichita, November 14th through 16th. Dana, any board report?
Can you do the other way? Because
Yeah.
I turned off my phone and I got to turn it off.
We appreciate your courteousness during the meeting to have your phone on silent. Go ahead, Molly.
I have nothing to report.
Scott.
I attended the NEA meeting and also the ribbon cutting out at Salina Area Tech, and then also just catching in some of the athletic events that are going on.
I have nothing to report either.
I will report that my first meeting at the Smoky Hill Education Service Center, I could not attend because they moved it to a different date that I couldn't go to, but I will report that Paul Gebhardt has been the vice president, and so the next, one of the next items on their agenda is to look for a replacement for Paul for vice president. They also wanted everyone to know that they've scheduled the Smoky Hill Education Service Center legislative luncheon for Friday, November 7th, the Friday after the election. I also want to say that a twirler at South High, Alan Johnson, is a senior at South, and he has been twirling for many years and marches with the band. He qualified for the World Twirling Championship in Italy, and he got to attend the competition just before school started. He won the world contest in the strut category, which is a category where you never throw the baton, but you do things with it. And his report was that the Japanese cleaned up on pretty much everything, but he won the strut. So he was still in Italy on the first day of school, so we have a picture of him at the Colosseum in Rome when the rest of his classmates were starting school. Thank you.
I'm ready now, Mr. President. So at Parks and Rec, very informative meeting. Did not know it was live streamed, would have liked to have known that before I walked in. But I did find out there's a new dog park at Carver Center. There's improvements to the fourth section at Barkley. This is kind of cool. They're rebuilding the sand volleyball court at Jerry Ivy Park that they removed for the tennis courts that we put in because they said people have missed those. Salina has officially been awarded the host the KCAC Baseball Softball Championships for 2026. Is that correct wording, Scott? Based on Salina's ability to host both softball and baseball. Parks and Rec Department was very appreciative of the USDO 305's willingness to work with the city on the field availability during those dates, and they were very thankful that we are so easy to work with, so good job. And then I went to the forum last Thursday for the candidates. Nice job.
I was not able to attend the Board of Control meeting in August. I did, however, make it to Topeka today for the Central High, Jazz Combos performance at the State Board of Education meeting, and they did a fantastic job. So great seeing our students there, getting some recognition and the ability to perform in a different venue. On to Superintendent's report with Superintendent Hogan.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you, and thank you again for going to the State Board meeting. There was several conflicts with our administrative schedule to go there and support. So we appreciate that, and certainly an honor to recognize our kids for their talents. It's been a busy month since we met last time. I participated in an interview with KSAL, just kind of a get to know you that we participated in the morning. Ongoing meetings with KDHE and the Schilling Air Force Base project. Also attended the Smoky Hill Superintendent's Advisory Council. Salina Educational Foundation trustee. That was my first time to meet a lot of those people, and really great organization, supportive of our kids in our school, and it'll be nice to participate in that breakfast and learn more about the things that they do for us. We did have our KISA 6-month follow-up, which was great. Shout out to Shanna and her department for good work there. We're on track for meeting our goals, and I think this is kind of where the real lift begins, so to speak, in the next 6 months. I just will remind the board that the KISA process now is really on a 1-year timeline, which is nice, and in my personal opinion, probably the best that we've done in terms of school improvement. It gives school districts the ability to look at your goals, set short-term goals that could be extended into long-term goals. You don't have to change every year, but if you've met those goals, then you can mix things up and you can set new goals the previous year. So I do really feel like that's targeting local needs for all the districts across Kansas. Also got to meet with our United Way rep. I presented and gave a speech, if you will, to AMBUCS. I was harassing our president for not being there at 6:30 in the morning. Just kidding, Gabe. Board of Controls, I've attended that. We were also able to host a work session, if you will, to give input from a practitioner's standpoint over the legislative funding task force that's going on right now. Dr. Frank Harwood with KSD was tasked to get some practitioners' information. I think we were selected because of geography, but we were able to have about 10 special education directors from across the state, lots of different sizes, and really did some good work there. To follow that up, then Jeff and I went to the task force and just participated from an audience standpoint, a supportive standpoint, and the representative that worked with us, one of the special education directors, she did an amazing job. And so hopefully they will take some of that information as they're making decisions to not only reset our funding formula overall, but certainly the aspect of special education. I think that the task force recommendation will be to lean towards a student-funded model. Right now, we're in a reimbursement model. Those are very different, and I think that's kind of where we're leading. And so we really gave them the pros and cons to different state models and how they do it and how that would relate back to Kansas kids. So good opportunity there, certainly to do that. Chamber of Commerce board meetings, another halftime interview for the Salina Central, Salina South game. That was my first Mayor's Cup that I got to attend. Also, great atmosphere. Everybody did a super job there. We got to honor the Salina South state champions at that and had a nice video presentation that was done. So that was excellent. We've had Superintendent's Association meetings called KSSA Links in Hutchinson that I was able to attend. Again, it's kind of a preview of things that are happening around the state that you get to visit with other superintendents across the state with, so it's definitely professional development. We've had an admin meeting, new administrative orientation, so those are ongoing for our lead teachers that became assistant principals, and then we have a new head principal as well. So that's a good model that we continue to do snippets of things for them throughout the year. We had, like Scott said, our first meeting with NEA. That seems to be continuing in the good nature that it has been thus far, and really good relationship, honest conversation. So I really appreciated my first sit down with them. And we had Counting Kids this week. That's a big thing. You know, that's how we lots of funding formulas that go into there, and you know what a revenue source that kids will bring in based on whatever needs and the cost that is associated with educating them. And so they do that every year with updates, and so we'll be kind of making sure that we have checks and balances to make sure that we're doing those things properly. And the last thing that I'll bring up is we had a teacher, so every year at the KSB convention, they have started, it's probably been 3 years now, and it's called the District Showcase. And districts from across the state can submit an application to just celebrate the great things that are happening in their school districts with their kids. And so we somewhat twisted one of our teacher's arms and asked if she would be interested in doing that. And so Linda Edson is a fax teacher, and she was willing to do it, and we just got notification that she was selected. So 305 will have a representative there for our district showcase. So super proud about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On to our executive session list here. First up for attorney-client, which we'll do for 30 minutes. Give us a few minutes to get there.
You need a break in between there?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to go right there.
I got it. I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 6:37 for 30 minutes. All right, 6:07 for 30 minutes for the purpose of consultation with the board legal counsel on matters which are privileged in the attorney-client relationship, which is discussed in open session, would waive that privilege, and that the Board of Education reconvene in open session at 6:37 in the SEC room.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We will be in executive session and reconvene in open session here at 6:37.
President, I
Hold on
move
there.
that we
Hold on
go.
there, hold on there. We're back in open session from that executive session and do need additional time. Is there a motion?
Thank you. Excuse me. Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go back into executive session at 6:39 for
Give us 6:40.
6:40 for 15 minutes for the purpose of consultation with board legal counsel on matters which are privileged in the attorney-client relationship, which if discussed in open session would waive that privilege, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 6:55 in the SEC room.
Paul seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. We will recess into executive session. Be back in this room at 6:55. an open session and have no action to take as a result of that executive session, but do have need for another executive session that was added for personnel. And let's give ourselves a few minutes.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, I move that the
at-
Board of Education go into.
Paul, go in at 7 and give us 15 minutes.
Very welcome. Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7 o'clock for 15 minutes for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel and their contractual obligations because of if this matter were discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:15 in the SEC room.
Thank you. Is there a second? And seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. We'll be back in open session here after recessing into executive session at 7:15. Open session and have no action to take as a result of that executive session, and have reached the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
3 and second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're adjourned.